What is up, everyone? Brandon First, aka First Report, representing the First Off the Bench podcast network. Everyone comes off the bench. We are first. Welcome in to our Kentucky Oaks and Kentucky Derby preview here on the original Call to Post. We break down everything North American Thoroughbred horse racing has to offer. And of course, with me, as always, is my friend and co-host, Raider Jim Martinez. You can find Mr. Martinez at Raider Jim 1090. How you doing tonight, sir?
Oh, I'm excited as all get out. I've been walking around all day long, working in my garage, wearing my silks. I do stand out in a crowd, but I don't care. I got to fit the mood of the weekend. This is it. Here we go. Kick off the Triple Crown stuff, and let's see what's going to happen. You know, on Friday alone, the program has $5,998,000 in purse money. On Saturday, that's peanuts compared to Saturday. Saturday, it will be $11,778,000. That's what horse racing is about.
There it is. Yeah. It's funny when I talk to other people, sometimes weren't terribly familiar with horse racing and they say, oh, it's a $40,000 race. And I'm like, what? Like, how's that even on the card? Money is very, very relative in horse racing. $1 million is where you want to be. And as you mentioned, we have a ton to get to. We're going to be breaking down 8 total races between Friday and Saturday. Of course, obviously, the Oaks and Derby are going to be a part of that. We have some others as well. There's going to be some other really good races that, just for the sake of time and for our schedules, we just can't get to. But all of the grade ones on Saturday and then a couple, obviously the Oaks and a couple grade twos on Friday. But before we get into that, obviously, it is Derby season, Triple Crown season, and it's a nice little moment to kind of look back. Obviously, the Kentucky Derby is the most famous race in horse racing. That name, most non-horse racing aficionados can at least tell you the one race being the Kentucky Derby. Certainly isn't the richest. Plenty of money will be given out, but the big money is in the Breeders' Cup. But Raider Jim, just your thoughts on kind of the history of the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, you said it. It's not the richest. It's not the biggest purse, but I'll tell you what, it has withheld the test of time. This is going to be the 151st running of the Kentucky Derby, and not every track can say that. Not every handicap or sweepstakes can say that. This is a very, very special race. For me, of course, I can't believe when I was looking at this, it's going back 16 years now, when Calvin Burrell hit that rail and took Mind That Bird at 51 across the line. What a race that was. Got to appreciate the more recently, 2019 Country House, who crossed the line at like 65-1. And then who can forget just a few years back, Rich Strike went just over 80-1. The $6 bet across the board, 2 to win, 2 to place, 2 to show, would have gotten you a return of $266 in your pocket. That's a pretty good return on a $6 investment. But if you really want to say, but what is there one horse that stands out? It's got to be 2015 American Pharoah.
Yeah, obviously the historical significance of that 2015. And we did see Justify win the Triple Crown. Maybe, if you want to put an asterisk on it, fine. No big deal. But American Pharoah, for a lot of people, will say, is the last Triple Crown winner, but definitely ended that kind of that Secretariat drought, or at least the Triple Crown drought. And obviously it starts at the Derby. And I also will say the Triple Crown landscape, I think, has really, really changed. Obviously it was, okay, these big horses, they're going to run in all 3. Now you have some of the big horses just completely skipping the Kentucky Derby, want to play spoiler in the Preakness, or the horses that maybe finish second or third here in the Derby say, you know what, let's take an extra few weeks. Let's just go straight up to Belmont and get ready for the Belmont Stakes. So it is so difficult to win the to win the Triple Crown. Not like it wasn't before, but now you do kind of have that extra, both the Preakness and the Belmont are going to have pretty fresh contenders to go up against that, the one horse everyone's going to be looking at and will more than likely be the favorite. I would say for me, obviously, Rich Strike. The story behind Rich Strike, there was, of course, the barn fire. Every horse except for Rich Strike on the barn, unfortunately, did pass away. And, Rich Strike, I don't mean to laugh, but it's, essentially one of those, well, that was the fastest horse in the barn. And the run that Rich Strike had, if you go back and, NBC usually, they'll probably put it out this weekend. I mean, they've been kind of putting it out pretty much weekly for the last 2 months, but the run of Rich Strike going from, essentially 18th all the way to the front, not only as, just a contending horse, but as you mentioned, one of the biggest long shots ever. But it really is the start of something special. I kind of think of it kind of like a sporting event or a football game. Like, you can't win the game in the first quarter, but you can lose it. You can't win the Triple Crown in the Kentucky Derby, but obviously 19 horses are going to lose out their opportunity to get it. And I think the other part, we talked about it last week, kind of bringing the whole family back together. We don't have the Bob Baffert, what ifs, what horses aren't here, and would they have been able to run down Rich Strike or, this or that, whatever, fill in the blanks for the past 3 years. We don't have to deal with that this year. And I think that's going to kind of make things, again, kind of the family's all whole again. Everyone's at Thanksgiving dinner. We don't have to tiptoe around anything here and there. Cannot wait for this weekend, and emphasis on the weekend, because again, we're going to focus on the Oaks and the Derby, but there is a lot of other really good races, even ones that we don't have the time to get to. But with that being said, it is time to dive into the race previews for this weekend. Oops, opened the wrong file, but I can make this work. All right, we're going to be going on Friday. Starting off, this will be race number 6, 1:40 Eastern, 10:40 Pacific. That'll be AM for the Pacific side of things. It is the Grade 2 Alysheba Stakes, $750,000. That's a very good price tag for a Grade 2. That'll be the purse. We are going 1 mile and 16 on the dirt. So 2 turns here. Raider Jim, I'm going to give you first crack at the Grade 2 Alysheba.
Yeah, as we go through the races that we're going to talk about and who our favorites are and why, and the ifs and whatnots, and we talk about some of the morning line odds, keep in mind this: there is supposed to be some rain both Friday and Saturday. Cool temperatures going to be in the 60s, mid 60s to low 60s, and then there's a chance of rain throughout the day. So takes that dirt track, makes it a little less manageable for some horses. We're going to start, though, as you said, with the Alysheba Stakes, named after the 1987 Derby winner who came back to Churchill Downs in 1988 to win the Breeders' Cup Classic. Great horse. Alysheba was definitely is in the Hall of Fame, and rightly so. The favorite in this one is Fierceness. Right now at 6-5, Todd Pletcher's the trainer. John R. Velasquez is the jockey. Now, Fierceness, has had my concern with Fierceness, long layoff. And I don't know how that's going to play for Fierceness. I almost tend to lean towards the second favorite, which is Locked at 2-1. Also a Todd Pletcher horse. Either way, this guy's going to be in the money. Jose Ortiz is going to be riding that one. Just came off a win at the winner's circle at the Santa Anita Handicap. Has had the winner's circle, won the Cigar Mile, which is a Grade 2 back in December, and placed in the Pegasus just a couple months ago. So I think I like definitely Fierceness, but I like Locked a little more. There's somebody else out here, though, and I got to flip my page so I can get a good look at that. After that, I do like the 5-horse Most Wanted. Also like the 3-horse Hall of Fame. Hall of Fame, a little inconsistent, but Most Wanted definitely, I think, is a horse that can be a contender, make a race out of this, especially, again, keep in mind with the weather and what the rain might do to the track.
Yeah, this is a really small field compared to what we're going to be talking about, obviously compared to the Derby. But even for that, I mean, we only have 6 runners, and with all due respect to the 1 and 6 horse, I kind of feel like those 2 horses and their connections are maybe just purse hunting here, trying to maybe find themselves into a 3rd place finish. And hey, that's a, what, 50, 70, maybe $100,000 payday. But yeah, take the 1 and 6 out of it. And then I think the meat of this is going to be between 2 and 5, which you kind of hit on. I kind of had it the same way. I think Locked in Fierceness, I think a lot of the money is going to be going to Fierceness. Also because look, I don't want to, Derby weekend, I don't know what the correct term is for this, but there's a lot of, I mean, for sake of a better word, there's a lot of stupid money that goes out there. The money that comes in from people who don't know the difference between a 1 and 2 horse race or 2-turn race is going to be astronomical. You don't really see a whole lot of like the Breeders' Cup get a lot of the not so big fans actually putting money here. And I really do think this weekend you do see that name value start to blow up. And I think Fierceness is a name value for a lot of people who go to Churchill and maybe don't follow horse racing outside of these 2 days that we're talking about. And they go, why do I remember that name? Well, more than likely you lost money on Fierceness last year in the Derby when finished well off the 24.5 lengths off the lead as the favorite. Fierceness had a great summer, obviously worked hard, but 2 lengths off of Sierra Leone in the Breeders' Cup Classic. As you mentioned, that long layoff, last time we've seen that race or that horse run. And Locked on the other side, you talk about the Santa Anita handicap. That is a 8.5 length win in a Santa Anita over Express Train as well, who is a very, very good West Coast horse. I do wonder if a lot of that money goes to Fierceness. We get a little of that East Coast bias. I think Locked maybe opens up. You can get Locked at 4-1. I think you're going to feel real good about that. We will, a lot of money will need to come towards Fierceness or either Hall of Fame and Most Wanted. I gave a slight edge, like you, to Most Wanted. The Hall of Fame has had some really, really good runs, but I mean, it started in optional claiming, then went to a grade 3 and then to a grade 2. Only won 2 of those 3 races. Last time out, ran very well, but still 3 lengths off of the lead despite putting up a best buyer of 106. I think you're really splitting hairs between Fierceness and Locked. You're probably just going to want to look for value. And then underneath, again, I think you're splitting hairs with Hall of Fame and Most Wanted. Again, not a ton of opportunities here. If you are big on This Is Uskar or Katona, this is a great opportunity because both of those horses are 30 and 20-1 respectively. Not going to make it onto my card here, but I think it's going to come down to Fierceness and Locked, and I'm excited to see how this does kind of end up when it's all said and done. A 2-turn race with only 6 horses. It's going to be interesting to see how this shakes out. But again, I think this is Fierceness's race to lose. But we'll see if Locked can sneak in to that winner's circle as well. Moving on to the Grade 1 La Troienne Stakes. This is going to be for 4-year-old and up filly and mares, going again 1 mile and 16 on the dirt with a purse of $1 million. Of course, this is the Grade 1. I'll get this one started. And look, I mean, you can't talk about this race without starting with the horse that we waxed poetically about last week, Torpedo Anna, the reigning horse of the year, not the filly of the year, the horse of the year. And I am wondering if, there are some of these other connections looking around and, maybe going up to Kenny McPeak and being like, hey, why don't you take take Anna and run against the boys and maybe even some things out. Because at 2 to 5 morning line, you're not going to find any value, and that number is going to drop any further. And to be honest, as it should, I don't think anybody can come close to Anna in this race. Wasn't great in the Apple Blossom earlier this year. I mean, both of the races this year for Torpedo Anna, compared to what she was running late last year, big drops in speed, but she still won by 3.5 and 4 lengths in those grade 2 and grade 1 respectively. So again, Torpedo Anna doesn't have to be at her best, and she's still going to beat the ladies by a lot. I don't think anything changes here. So looking underneath, look, Raging Sea looks around and goes, hey, we finished second in the Breeders' Cup Distaff last year. For sure, with 2 lengths to Anna, but at 9 to 2, I think there's a lot of value for Raging Sea. I really do like this horse. Unfortunately, Randomized is also in this race. And going back all the way to last June in the Ogden Phipps, Raging Sea did lose to Randomized by a healthy margin there. So we'll have to kind of exercise 2 demons with not just Torpedo Anna, but also Randomized, who is also on my card as well. I will say, look, 6 to 1, I think that's a bit of I don't know if it's an overreaction, but it's definitely a reaction to the Personal Ensign last year. I mean, Randomized last run was last August and was not good. 15 lengths off the lead in a 2 Raging Sea. But that was a race that they were 2 to 1 in and ran a 74. Just really fell off there. Haven't seen this horse since. I personally think we would have seen Randomized probably in the Breeders' Cup Distaff. That last run, I think, knocked her out of that. But those are just the 3 that catch me. Another kind of small field as we start to open up into the double digits, but only 7 runners here. And again, it's all about Torpedo Anna, and you're just trying to find place show tickets in my mind. Raider Jim, your thoughts?
I couldn't agree more. I mean, this is Torpedo Anna's race to lose, and I don't believe she's going to lose. My only concern, I also have Raging Sea number 4. First of all, they've got that combination, Chad Brown, Flavian Pratt. You can't not have that in your favor. At 9 to 2, great odds. I like it off the start. However, first entry in 2025, had good success in 2024, went to the winner's circle in 2 grade 2 races. Also had a place in a grade 1, did the Breeders' Cup Distaff, as you mentioned. And then we have Randomized at 6 to 1. Those are the top 3. However, I might look at one of those, move them around, and I like the horse on the outside. 7, Free Like a Girl. That horse hasn't hit the winner's circle, but I'll tell you what, very consistently placed in the last 3 races, in some quality races, ran with some good speed. Don't be surprised with that position and with a little bit of dampness on the track for Free Like a Girl to come in and mess up a bunch of tickets.
I like that, actually. I like that a lot. Obviously, 0 for 2 against Torpedo Anna, but second both times. You know,
most people say that.
Yeah, exactly, right? I mean, you're essentially racing for second. And also, too, you want to talk about a vet. This will be race number 51 for Free Like a Girl. That's a really, really good call, especially with the possible weather situation that, you know, is always, again, because we are recording on Tuesday, which is a lot earlier than normal for these. But luckily, you know, the Kentucky Derby, that allure, we get these notes a little earlier. But yeah, it's a little difficult to kind of handicap the race in general, let alone the weather. But that's a great kind of nugget to keep in mind, that if this does get a little sloppy, you're definitely going to want to look for some value, and Free Like a Girl is definitely going to be plenty.
And it could be those 3 horses following, you know, trying to chase down Torpedo Anna. That could be a real race to watch, just to see who's going to get the place in the show. And I forgot my trivia. Troienne Stakes, originally run as the Louisville Breeders' Cup Handicap in 1986. Then after several changes throughout the years, they renamed it La Troienne after the world-famous broodmare La Troienne. So, and if anybody doesn't know what a broodmare is, that is a mare that is specifically used for breeding, produced a lot of quality horses, and of course is in the Horse Racing Hall of Fame.
There you go. Raider Jim always got something for us on the horse racing side of things. A lot of history in horse racing. Raider Jim knows it all. Moving on to the Grade 2 8 Bells Stakes. This will be race number 9 on Friday, about 4 o'clock on the East Coast, 1 o'clock here out west. This is going to be for 3-year-old fillies going 7 furlongs on the dirt with a purse of $600,000. Raider Jim, I'm going to give you the first bite at the apple. That is the 8 Bell Stakes.
Okay, and this is race 9.
9, yes.
Something happened to my.
No worries. I'll let you get your side.
No, why don't you go right ahead?
Yeah. I'll take the reins here and Raider Jim will find his notes. This is kind of the antithesis of the last few races. We talked about big field, and I think there's a lot of value here. 12 runners. I think the favorite, I'm just kind of going through real quickly, 3-1, 7-2. Yeah, it looks like 7-2 is going to be your favorite, I believe. Once again, oh no, I apologize. The 12 horse, 5-2. Eclant is your favorite here. You got Luis Saez and Brad Cox. The first horse that I want to talk about is actually the 5 horse, Verity. This is a horse last time out, 3 straight wins after breaking the maiden, got off of the synthetic at Turfway, and then moved to Keeneland and got a big win in a Grade 2 at 6-1. I think there were a lot of people that said, yeah, this is a Nyquist, Nyquist sired horse. There's something here, but it's the first time on dirt and the first time in a graded race. 6-1 probably was a good price, and then went out and dominated the Beaumont field. Stepping in here, I really, really do like Verity here. I think that's the horse that definitely has the value and the speed boxes checked for me. And then obviously you do get to Eclant, which is the favorite. I'm not big on this horse, and maybe I am just a little, beholden to the speed figures, but 5-2 in a Grade 2 and your best speed figure is an 82. Okay, but then you also look and go, oh, the best speed figure was an 82. That was its debut, and it's gone 81, 72, and 80, so it's not like it's fallen off of a cliff, but I don't know, 5-2, I don't know if I'm missing something. Obviously, great connections with Brad Cox and Luis Saez, but I don't think this horse is going to make it onto my card. Another horse that is kind of shortly priced that isn't going to make it onto my card is Impulse Buy. I don't know. Again, the speed numbers, you have Flavian Pratt aboard, but where this horse, the way this horse likes to run, this post position is not great at 10. This horse wants to be towards the front, might need to put in a little extra to get that done. How does that kind of all filter out? Only one turn, but still something to keep in mind. The second horse that kind of jumped out to me, I think this might be the best value of Friday, and that's the 7 horse, Mandela. I love the value here. I don't know if this is a winner's circle horse, but definitely a place show ticket for me. Again, at 15-1. Look, I understand the number 15-1 because just finally broke its maiden. And you don't see too many horses break their maiden and then go straight to a graded stakes race on Derby weekend, or in this case on Oaks Day. But I really do think that Mandela has what it takes to at least get into the money. And I think at a place show pick, I think there's a lot of value here. I really do like Mandela. They also like right outside of Mandela is Blue Fire. I really do like the consistency. However, do think this horse is trending in the wrong direction. Three straight wins, or excuse me, 3 out of 4 wins over their past 4. Unfortunately, all of them in ungraded stakes races, and peaked at an 88 4 races ago. Last time out, only ran an 80. So again, 88, 85, 80, 80, moving in the wrong direction. We do get Jose Ortiz back aboard, has a lot of success with Blue Fire. We'll see if that helps. But 12-1, I definitely do understand. And finally, the last one, I'm more intrigued by this horse. It's Bourbon Memory, the 9 horse. Look, this horse is 4 for 4 in its career. Unfortunately, all on synthetic racetrack. So again, how does that transfer? I'm interested to kind of see, because you don't really see this a whole lot, especially on Oaks and Derby Day, or weekend, I should say, seeing a horse that's only ran on synthetic surfaces jumping onto the dirt in a graded stakes race, a graded 2 nonetheless. Those are just the horses I got my eye on. So again, 5, 7, 8, 9, all of those pretty much play show picks. The favorites don't really scream a ton of value. So I'm looking at the umbrella side. Thoughts on the grade 2 8 Bells Stakes?
Yeah, I'm with you. I like number 5 Verity for sure. There's a reason that horse is number 1. It's 3 for 3 in 2025. So you can't take away from what it has already accomplished. And like you, believe it or not, I look down at 12. I look down at 10. 10 is Impulse Buy. 12 is Eclatant. And I don't see it. It's not going to pencil out for me. It hasn't penciled out for me. However, and people are going to think we're doing that thing where we look over each other's shoulders and see what we're riding. However, I do have number 8 Blue Fire down on my card, because I like the combination of Steve Asmussen and Jose Ortiz. Winner's Circle, 3 out of the last 4. And I get it. They're all black type races, as you alluded to, but still, they didn't lose, did they? And if anybody can take a horse and get it to step up to that next level, it's Steve Asmussen. And Jose Ortiz, you can never go wrong when he's on the reins. Number 9, Bourbon Memory, 8-1. Brandon Walsh is training. Gerardo Corrales is going to be on the reins. I like this horse a lot. This was the only real race of the ones we're going to talk about for Friday where I thought there's value out there to be had. And I think those are going to be the horses that do it for us. Bourbon Memory, I didn't get a chance to dig deep enough. Is it in the line of Midnight Bourbon?
Like 2 seconds once you said I didn't get a chance, and then in my mind I was like, where's he going with this? I'll get back to you on that. That's definitely some homework Brandon should have done there. That Midnight Bourbon is 100% my jurisdiction. I want to say yes, but at the same time, I don't think so. Maybe the same, just because, Volta Oro and Take a Memo, you got the Sire and Dam, and then Maglio Adoro, and then Empire Maker. I believe that would mean they're kind of the grandparents. I feel like Midnight Bourbon would have been in there somewhere. But again, that's a really good question. And I tell you, that might be the end of it. If in the next, when we end this and Midnight or in Bourbon Memory is a part of Midnight Bourbon, everyone knows Brandon's just going to go all, this is my new horse, apparently. So that seed has been planted, but we'll see. I'll do a little research on the back end there, but that would definitely be full circle. Again, if you've been listening to the original Call to Post long enough, one of the running bits here is my affinity of the late great Midnight Bourbon. Always seemed to finish second in those Triple Crown and those big grade 1 races over the summer. One of my favorites ever. God rest its soul. But that's a good one. Gonna have to do a little research there on that. So moving on to the main event of Friday. It is the grade 1 Kentucky Oaks, $1.5 million being passed out to these horses, 3-year-old fillies. Again, very similar to the Derby, but we're going with the fillies side of things. We can only run, you can't win this race more than once in your career. You only get one shot in your 3-year-old life. Raider Jim, your thoughts on the Grade 1 Kentucky Oaks?
Yeah, again, it is Derby week back at Churchill Downs. We have the running for the Roses on Saturday, the Kentucky Derby. And then on Friday, though, let's make room for the ladies and let's give them their respect. The inaugural running was in 1875 when Churchill Downs was known as the Louisville Jockey Club. The Kentucky Oaks, the Black-Eyed Susan Stakes, and the Acorn Stakes are also known as the Philly Triple Crown. So as they progress from the Derby to go to the next two jewels of the crown, so go the fillies, and they will be running as well. And short on talent, I don't think so. Just since Brandon and I have been doing the podcast and talking about horses, we've seen Monomoy Girl win the Oaks. We've seen She Dares the Devil win the Oaks. We've seen Malathot win the Oaks. And of course, last year we saw Torpedo Anna win the Oaks. So no short on talent. This isn't a second-rate race. This is just as good, if not better than the Derby on some years, depending on who you're looking for. The favorite this year is number 11, Good Cheer. 6-5 morning line, Brad Cox and Luis Saez. No value there. However, Good Cheer, again, has had a long layoff. A little longer than I like to see for some of these races, although could be nice and rested, ready to go. I really like, and here's the value at 6-1, the number 7 horse, Lacara. A little inconsistent for some people's taste, even for mine, but last time out, won the Grade 1 Ashland Stakes and ran it with blazing speed. So I like the chances for Lacara to pull an upset on this one. And less looked at because of the West Coast. Primarily on the West Coast, hasn't been seen a lot back there, so maybe the handicappers just aren't going to give him the nod, and has also run against smaller fields. Number 9, Bob Baffert's Tenma, with Juan Hernandez on the reins. And let me tell you, 12-1, you can't do bad with those odds either. So there's some value with those horses. 6-1, Lacara, Tenma, 12-1. You have Quiet Side at 8-1. John A. Ortiz, trained Jose Ortiz, is going to be riding it. A Winner Circle in the Grade 3 Honeybee Stakes, Grade 2 Fantasy Stakes. Not a bad horse to look at either. And then there's also, on the outset, if you're looking for another one to fill in underneath, Simply Joking is worth a look. Simply Joking has some speed to it and can definitely compete. Got bested by Quiet Side, I believe, if I've got that correct, the last time they were out together on the track. But Good Cheer is the favorite, but not my favorite. My favorite is number 7, Lacara. And then after that, we're going to combine with Good Cheer, Tenma, and probably Quiet Side.
Yeah, obviously, as we kind of, as you alluded to, Good Cheer, it's hard to get away from that at 6-5 morning line. I was a bit surprised by that. I expected Good Cheer to probably be up there towards the favorite. 6-5, a very short number. But that just means, as you kind of mentioned, there's a lot of value out there. I do think Good Cheer is the best of the best, but as we mentioned a lot here, unless you're betting a ton of money on one single race, not a lot of money to be made. We tend to go about things a little differently. And I agree with you on Lacara. I think definitely the second best option here, was very, very good in that Ashland. The only question I would have is, I guess, what happened in the Devonta Dale. That was a race that heavy favorite and, finished 3 lengths off the lead. Nothing crazy, still finished second, but you do wonder if maybe that was more of an aberration. Definitely rebounded very well in the career best run in the Ashland, and beat Take Charge Milady, who's another one of the horses that I kind of have underneath. Obviously, when you are going through these and you look at the past performances, sometimes these speed figures, just one race really does stick out. And going back to the Honeybee, this is a horse, I believe, stumbled at the beginning of that race and 32 and a half lengths. I can't believe this horse even finished when you're that far back. I would have expected it's La Peru to kind of maybe pull him up and just say, we'll get him tomorrow and exit stage right. So the Honeybee wasn't great, but did return in the Ashland, which we talked about. Wasn't good enough to beat Lucara, but I do think Take Charge Milady, 12-1, definitely has some value here. Here come the people saying we're copying homework again, because I am very, very big on Simply Joking. I think Simply Joking has a very good shot to win the whole thing. I think maybe if, Lucara and Good Cheer maybe don't run the race that they are capable of, Simply Joking is that one. And I think the big reason why is the early speed in this race. I think the only there are only 3 horses that really want to be on the lead. One of them is Lucara, the other is Simply Joking, and the other is 5G. And, 5G has some numbers, and again, I don't love the consistency, but 5G will want to be on the lead, and it's just a wonder if, does 5G kind of become a rabbit for Lucara to chase, and maybe Simply Joking is a little more, Florent Giroux, little more veteran savvy to say, no, we're not going for the lead today. But I do like Simply Joking just because there's not a lot of early speed here, and Simply Joking wants to be on the lead. Probably only going to have to outrun Lucara to at least come into second, because again, I do think 5G will get there on that lead, but won't be able to hold it. So that's just my thought process with Simply Joking, but it is very difficult to get around Good Cheer. And then there was one other horse that I did want to talk about. I already talked about it. Yeah, I didn't spend a whole lot of time talking about Good Cheer. That's what kind of messed me up there. But this Kentucky Oaks, probably not the most value that you'll see if Good Cheer does come in. But as we've seen multiple times, it's very, very rare we see a favorite in the Oaks win. And as you kind of alluded to, I've always been more intrigued with the Oaks. Maybe not so much this year, just because, it is a little, you don't have those Monomoy girl, Swiss skydiver, Malathot showdown where you're just salivating. It's more just a question of who can beat Good Cheer. I think there are some horses that are going to be able to do just that. So moving on to Saturday's side of things. Obviously, this will be Derby Day. There are going to be 3 grade 2s that we are not going to talk about here. Those will be races 5, 6, and 7. So make sure you check those out, maybe on Twitter if we have something there, or I'm pretty sure wherever the Derby is, not on NBC, but I think it's on USA or something beforehand. These races will be on there, but we're going to be focusing only on the 5 grade 1s we do have on Derby Day. And starting off with the grade 1 Churchill Downs Stakes. We are going 7 furlongs on the dirt. This is for 4-year-olds and up, with a pretty purse of an even $1 million. Raider Jim, I'll give you the first crack at this one, the grade 1 Churchill Downs Stakes.
Yeah, I went up and down on this one, and I can tell you that I just can't get past the morning line favorite of 3-1, number 7 Mind Frame. Great post draw for this horse. Going to have a nice position right there at 3-1. This is trained by Todd Pletcher. Irad Ortiz is going to be riding, and you can never go wrong with that combination. After that, I like the number 10 horse at 4-1, Bob Baffert trained, and Nisus is the name of the horse. Bob Baffert trained, Flavian Pratt's going to ride. My only concern is a more than long layoff for this horse. It's been over a year since this horse has been on the track in competitive spirit like this. However, if you look back, this horse has got speed to spare. And if Bob has this horse trained, ready to go, and he thinks it's good enough to step out into a grade 1, guess what? This horse is good enough to step out onto a grade 1, and you got the jockey, the perfect jockey. Anytime you have Irad Ortiz and Flavian Pratt going head to head on a track, it's going to be a good race. Then I like number 2 Banishing at 5-1. Not a bad value there. Came in second the last time out. Banishing, a nice horse. I'm not too sure about the post position on this one, but we'll have to do a little bit of work. Can probably find some position on that one. Jose Ortiz, Irad's brother, is going to be riding that one. After that, there is a horse at 7-2 on the outside, number 11 Mulligan, but it's for some reason, it's like one of those horses we saw on the Friday card. Yeah, I couldn't pencil it out enough for me to say, yeah, I'm going to put that one on there. For sentimental sakes, and I try to not bet sentimental, but there was a day number 3 would have been on my ticket. Bookham Dano at 8-1, you still get a good value, but Bookham Dano 2025 is not the Bookham Dano for a couple years back. A little more inconsistency even through 2024. Still worth a look, still has some speed, and guess what? Last time out, ended up in the winner's circle.
Yeah, I start with Nisos. I know Mindframe is the morning line favorite and you know, definitely should be, but Nisos is a horse that, I mean, you mentioned it, a very long layoff. But I mean, it only ran 2 races in 2023, then took 4 months off, 5 months off, 4 months off. And then ran in February, ran a 105, and then we didn't see this horse again. Very, very long layoff, but just listen to this: 10.5, 9, and 7.5. Those are the lengths this horse has won by in its first 3 races. Obviously, one was a maiden special weight, but the last 2 were grade 3s on the West Coast, as you mentioned. Probably a little bit of East Coast bias here. And then another thing that I like to do sometimes when I am splitting hairs, I was looking at Mulligan and I saw, oh, Flavian Pratt, and then looked and I said, oh no, well, you know, Flavian Pratt has been aboard, but we got Luis Saez today or on Saturday, which is fine. Luis Saez is a very, very good jockey, great backup to Flavian Pratt. But in my mind, I always go, okay, well, Flavian Pratt must have chose Nisos over Mulligan. You have to imagine that Mulligan's connections wanted Flavian Pratt aboard. Flavian Pratt said, you know what? Who gives me the best chance to win? It's Nisos. So I always like to kind of give the edge there. So Mulligan very well could get in there if this horse does run in this race. But again, I think Nisos, even with that extra value, I think that East Coast bias, we can really take advantage here. And then I do like Mindframe. The only reason that I'm kind of steering away from this horse, not a great time last time out, still ran very well, got the win, won by, you know, a length plus, but was, I mean, 1-10 on the tote board when that went off and only ran in 96. And of course I say only tongue in cheek, but it's Derby weekend, folks. I very, very intrigued to see Mindframe get back and see if it can get back into the triple digits. Obviously, even last year in the Belmont and the Haskell, really, if it wasn't for Dornock, we'd be talking about Mindframe in a very different light after last year. Might have even seen this horse run in the Classic, but finished second both times. Could be an opportunity here. Now, I do have also Banishing. Probably the best speed figures of anyone consistently. The last 5 runs have all been triple digits or better, all in some very interesting races, or at least grade 3s up going forward. And the other part too, this is kind of a Churchill veteran. This will be run number 6 for Banishing on the Churchill dirt. And then I have 2 kind of underdogs or, you know, long shots. You know, just give them a look. That's all I'm asking. And the first one is number 6. It's Extra Añejo. You got Steven Asmussen and Joel Rosario aboard. This is a horse that cost $1.3 million as a yearling at auction. Unfortunately, hasn't lived up to the hype, but last time out in the Commonwealth ran very, very well and got the win. Ran in 97 at 4-1. Again, I'm kind of using my own thoughts against me here because it was Flavian Pratt aboard. Flavian Pratt will not be aboard here. I'm trying to figure out where he is. I would assume. Oh yeah, Nisos. I already talked about that. Duh. So Flavian Pratt had 3 choices here. Extra Añejo was not one of them, but at 12-1 and the hype that this horse has, I do eventually think this horse is going to flip the switch. Might be an opportunity to make a little bit of money on it. And finally, look, the 9 horse, Hear Me Song. Last time out was dreadful. Ran a 71 in that Commonwealth that I talked about with Extra Añejo. Was really bad. 13.5 lengths off the lead, but was essentially 20-1 in that race. So what were we expecting? But before that, this horse was running a 100, 101, and a 91 in ungraded, and the last one was a graded stakes race. 30-1, all I'm saying, give them a look. Maybe you like something. I don't quite understand that number. I think 20, 15-1 would probably be a little better, but maybe a little bit of an overreaction to the last time out in the Commonwealth. So again, just kind of throwing a flare up there to go check that horse out there. So moving on to race number 9. Of course, this will be again on Saturday. This is the Grade 1 American Turf Stakes. We are going a 1.16 mile on the Churchill turf. Is for 3-year-olds. And 2 turns on the turf. I'll get this one started. First one that jumps out to me is the 7 horse. And look, when you're talking about turf horses or turf races, you're going to want to find yourself a European. I'm not guaranteeing a European's going to win, but you're going to want a European horse on your card just to make sure you checked all the boxes. And for me, that horse is the 7 horse Zulu Kingdom. This is a big step up in class, but has ran with the big boys, of course, going back to last year in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. Was 4-1 and didn't run terribly well. But again, it's the Breeders' Cup, not everything, especially juveniles as well. Very difficult. This year, got its win. Not terribly impressive, but a career best 82 on the turf. I really do think Zulu Kingdom at 4-1, a lot of value there. New Century is 3-1 in this one. I don't really like the value here. And really this horse has kind of struggled in its last 2 runs. Ran in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, as I kind of mentioned earlier. Finished 2 lengths off the lead. Not a terrible run, but was expecting to be maybe a little bit closer, or at least get in the money. And then at Newmarket in Great Britain this year, was a 4.5-1 favorite. Didn't run very well. Only ran a 99 time form, which I think is like an 85 buyer equivalent. So I kind of threw New Century out of there, and then I started to build underneath Zulu Kingdom. The 10 horse Iron Man Cal. Obviously, I would have to imagine this is a nod towards Cal Ripken, or else that's the greatest coincidence in baseball and horse racing history. But you got Alberto Fresu and Philip D'Amato. Nearly shocked the world last year at 29-1. Lost out to Henry Matisse in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, only by a neck. This horse, that would have been one of the bigger upsets of Breeders' Cup weekend. It is the first run of the year. I'm excited to see what Iron Man Cal can do. 9-2, I want to see that number get up a little bit more for it to make it onto my card, just because, again, big question marks going from 29-1, yeah, in a Breeders' Cup, to now 9-2. We'll see. And then finally, the 6 horse, Maximum Promise. Look, this is another horse that I'm intrigued by. I would love to kind of pick the brain of Penny McPeak and on how this horse where this horse has gone. Tried to break its maiden on the turf. They thought, we got a turf horse. Didn't go well. Put it on the dirt. Broke its maiden. They said, hey, we got something good here. Put it in a grade 3. Realized, maybe it isn't a dirt horse. Back on a synthetic. Hasn't won on synthetic. So guess what? Where are we going? Back onto the turf. So I don't know. Again, 20-1, probably not going to make it onto my card, but sometimes I like to just kind of throw out a horse that I'm intrigued by to at least said, hey, if this horse does make it into the money or into the winner's circle, at the very least, I talked about Maximum Promise. I really, really do think we could possibly see a good little run out of Maximum Promise. Kenny McPeak, of course, is the owner. And then, of course, you do have Maximum Security as the sire. So love the pedigree there. Raider Jim, what are your thoughts on the Grade 1 American Turf Stakes?
Yeah, I mean, a pretty fair sized field in this one, but you look, and you can see that by far and away, it's number 7, Zulu Kingdom, Chad Brown, Flavian Pratt, mint to the winner's circle in the Grade 2 Pilgrim. As you noted, it came in, did not have a good running in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. Then we have number 3, New Century. I like Zulu Kingdom for the exact reason you led with. It's going to be the horse from Great Britain or it's going to be the horse from Ireland that is going to win this race. New Century at 3-1. Brandon Walsh, trainer. Irad Ortiz is going to be the jockey. But that might be my third pick because I am really strong on number 10, Iron Man Cal, at 9-2. You said it, what that horse almost did in the Breeders' Cup and what it did accomplish in the Breeders' Cup. We all know Phil D'Amato because of his tie to Del Mar. We get to see his training magic year in and year out, and I have a feeling they're going to put on quite a race come race 9, the American Turf Stakes on Saturday. Classic, of course, is an interesting horse. Mediocre speed, but is starting to step up a little bit. Hasn't done anything more than a black type, but there's something about that horse. And it could be that Frankie Dettori is going to be riding this horse. And anytime you put him on the back of a horse that's got potential, he's going to get the most out of it. So at 20-1, there's your big value horse, but keep an eye on Classic, of course, in this race.
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting American Turf. As you mentioned, the speed numbers and the tote board don't always kind of match up on this one. This is a lot of value throughout. But moving on to race number 10. This is going to be the Derby City Distaff Stakes. And of course, if you hear Distaff, it is, or Oaks, but mainly Distaff for this case, it is going to be for the fillies and mares. This is 4-year-olds and up, going 7 furlongs on the dirt with a purse of an even $1 million. Raider Jim, I'll give you the first bite at the apple that is the Derby City Distaff Stakes.
A lot of familiar names in this field. A 16-horse field, 16 entries, starting with the number 1 horse on the rail, Celia. At 4-1, I still like Celia. I think is going to run a good race. Has been off a while at 182 days, but good draw on the rail. I like that a lot. I'm okay with 4-1 if it stays right there. Now, the other horse that's out there running out of the 7th spot, Fava, used to be a dynamo, no longer a dynamo. Will not be considering that one this time. Even on the fence with Mystic Lake at 8-1, it's good value, but Mystic Lake is not running the way Mystic Lake used to run. However, I do like number 8, Ways and Means at 3-1, early morning line favorite. Chad Brown, Flavian Pratt. I have a feeling Ways and Means will be the horse to beat. It's going to be a good competition from the 1 horse Celia. And then I also like number 11, Positano Sunset at 12-1, big value. Last time out, made it to the winner's circle in the Grade 1 Madison Stakes. That horse is doing something right. And I also like number 9, Emery at 6-1, trained by Brad Cox, will be ridden by Manuel Franco. Watch Emery. I think Emery is going to, at 6-1, you've got real good value, placed the last time out, and I think is going to be in the mix on this one.
Yeah, this is an interesting race because for me, obviously, look, I understand Ways and Means being the favorite, and Ways and Means is going to more than likely make it onto my card, especially 3-1. That would be pretty good. I think that's going to more than likely drop. But I mean, if you take out the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint from Ways and Means 2024 season, I mean, Torpedo Anna and Power Squeeze are the only horses that beat this one. And, you know, if you know anything about horse racing, those are two of the top dogs right now. And I do like Ways and Means, but we do have a bit of a layoff. A lot of horses, you know, that you did see run in the Breeders' Cup. This is their first foray into the 2025 season, but it does need to be brought up. Vava, the only reason I want to talk about Vava is the drop that this horse has, unfortunately, it seems like, dealt with. This was a horse that won this race last year and went off at less than 2-1. And since then did win in the Chicago, but after that really started to fall. Ran a 103 buyer to win this race last year, then dropped down to 99. Okay, no big deal. Then dropped down to 94. Okay. And then in that Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint, all the way down to 84. I think the alarm bell should be ringing. Not going to be on my card, very similar to you, Raider Jim, but I did just want to kind of point out that drop in form, unfortunately. And then the other horse that I might even make it to the top of my ticket, I am very, very surprised at the 2-horse, Copian. Look, I understand the Santa Anita Oaks was a really bad run. Ran a 65. Didn't look good as the close to favorite. Then came back in the La Brea, and then at 38-1 ran away from the field, won that by 3 lengths. And then just in case anybody thought maybe it was a bit of a fluke, let's go to the Santa Monica. I'll win by 4.5 lengths this time as the favorite. I really like Copian here. I wonder if, and I want to say like, oh, maybe this is East Coast bias, but we're going to be talking about the Derby, and a West Coast horse is a favorite there. So I don't know. I think I'm just really happy with that 8-1 for a horse that I think is the top of the heap. Ton of value. Love it. Take out the Santa Anita Oaks, and I think the speed figures really do pop out. And then, of course, as we mentioned, Ways and Means, look, outside of that last year, really good. And Emery, as you kind of touched on as well, very, very consistent. 95, 93, 95, 96, 97, all in graded stakes races. 2 of those were grade 1s, 2 were grade 2s, and a grade 3. I really do like the way Emery does it. My only concern is the post position. Emery wants to be on the lead, and at post position 9, not the hardest to get to the rail, but it's not, you know, you wanted to be a little closer there. Not the case. And who knows, maybe the weather will also kind of complicate things, but just a couple thoughts I had on Emery as I go through. It's all I really got, other than the fact, the 13 horse, My Main Squeeze, spelt like Maine, like on a horse. I don't know. I love wordplay like that. Anyways, don't bet on that horse. Just thought the name was funny. Moving on to the second to last race we are going to be breaking down. It is race number 11 on Derby Day. It is the Turf Classic Stakes, $1 million for 4-year-olds and up. And we are going 1 mile and an eighth on the turf. I'll get this one started. The first one that jumps out to me, the top of my ticket, I really like the 7 horse. It's not too often you're going to see in a grade 1, you're going to see Chad Brown and Flavian Pratt teamed up, and it's not the favorite, and you get an opportunity to, make a little bit of value here. This is a horse that's been moving in the right direction. 98, 97, 98, all the way back to a 100 in the grade 3 Tampa. Excuse me. And the other part that I really do like about this race is Running Bee wants to be maybe not on the lead, but close to the lead. There's not a lot of early speed here. I really like the way everything kind of, factors out for Running Bee in this one. That's going to be near the top of my ticket. And then also, as I go below it, I do like Spirit of St. Louis. 9-2, really good value here and a very good start to the year. This is a horse that won the Pegasus Turf Invitational. It's kind of goes hand in hand with the Pegasus World Cup. Obviously, one's on dirt, one is on turf. And this is a horse that won at 8-1 at Gulfstream. Excuse me. Wasn't great last time out at Fairgrounds. Lost out to, unfortunately, pretty much all the horses that are running here. But at 9-2, I do think there's a good value. And then my kind of long shot pick is right outside of the Spirit of St. Louis. It is Brilliant Birdie. I really like the consistency. Again, the numbers aren't on the high 90s side of things, but going back all the way to June of last year, 93, 91, 90, 92, 91, will need to step up big time. But I think this is a horse at 12-1 and probably going to get closer to 15 or maybe even 20-1 in my mind. I think this is a horse that could get you some value. I don't think it's a winner circle horse, but who knows? Things break correctly, a late run from this one, and we might see this horse get into the money. And again, at 12, 10, 15, whatever to 1, that might be the bigger payout of everything. But Raider Jim, your thoughts on the Turf Classic Stakes?
Okay, making sure you can hear me because it looks like my camera did go out.
Oh, yes, I can hear you. But yeah, it does look like it.
Okay, very good. In the Turf Classic, my number one choice is number 10, Spirit of St. Louis at 9-2. Chad Brown, Manuel Franco, blazing win at the Pegasus is the note that I put down. And I have a feeling we'll definitely repeat that performance. I also like the horse on the rail, number 1, Integration at 4-1. Not the best odds, not the worst odds. Claude McCaughey is the trainer. Frankie Dettori is going to be the jockey. This one, I do have kind of a long shot that I'm going to throw in there for sure. Number 5, I'd Rather Be Blessed at 15-1. Now, if you look at the horse's last 2 performances in grade 2 races, it won a grade 2 race not that many weeks ago. Then it came in 10th in a grade 2 race. However, if you read the sheet after the race, that horse was positioned to lead wire to wire and then kind of got a bad turn and spun out a little bit and could not regain, couldn't make up the ground. But until then, that horse broke well. If that horse breaks well, watch I'd Rather Be Blessed, the 5 horse. This horse can really lay down the speed, and I think will definitely be in the money on this one. After that, the other horse I would look at would possibly be number 3, Highway Robber, but I am still higher on I'd Rather Be Blessed.
Yeah, I'm just looking at I'd Rather Be Blessed, and I think you kind of mentioned it. I don't know what it's kind of hard sometimes with the daily racing form, the abbreviations they give for names. I don't know what that March 22nd race was at Fairgrounds, but 86-1, and that horse gets in the winner's circle. Wow. I just kind of looked at the closer look. It said, to say that this horse outruns its odds is an understatement. You think? That's a very, very nice thing to have to deal with there. It's going to be an interesting one. Obviously, 1 1/8, the longest turf race on the card. Definitely something to keep an eye on. It's going to be a very interesting one, especially considering there's some guys, like you said, I'd Rather Be Blessed. That would be, 15-1 is nothing compared to 86-1, but would love to get into the winner's circle with that next to it. But we move on to our main events, really, of the podcast. It is the Grade 1 Kentucky Derby. So, of course, for 3-year-olds, we are going 1.25 miles on the dirt for $5 million. That's right, $5 million purse. Raider Jim, I'm going to give you first honors at the 151st running of the Kentucky Derby.
I don't think it has changed for several weeks. Journalism has been the favorite going into the month of May. And I think it's going to remain. And it's obvious. Journalism is definitely the best horse out there. Going to be running out of the 8 spot, currently at 3-1. But here's a little fascinating fact. You have to go back to 2013 before you find a favorite that wins the Derby. After 2013, there's been a bit of a drought, and we went over some of the odds that have won over the last 3 years, 60-1, 80-1, those types of things. And then go back to, of course, Mind That Bird at 50-1. So journalism should be the winner, should be the leader, is definitely the favorite, but can it overcome and break that spell that has been put on that label going into 2025? If not, then who can take the lead? Then I think you're going to go to number 17 at 6-1, Sandman. I like that horse very, very much. Now, pace, of course, in any race is going to be very important. Pace in this race is going to be set probably by the horse on the rail, number 1, Citizen Bull. Runs like a bull. I mean, they open the gate and that horse just sets the pace and attacks. So Citizen Bull will set the pace. Citizen Bull could definitely finish in the money. And at 20-1, not worth or not a bad look to stick it on your ticket underneath there. Definitely has the opportunity to finish in the money. Another one that is a good favorite is at 5-1, Sovereignty, running out of the 18 spot. Little far outside, but I think Sovereignty has the potential and definitely has the skills to make a race out of that. So that's 4 horses, but I've got a 5th one. And the 5th one, even though I said it earlier, don't go sentimental. Better have good reasons when you're going to bet on certain horses. And I'm looking at number 4, Rodriguez. Now, Rodriguez, who has finally come through and won a couple nice races. I think even won the Santa Anita Handicap or the Santa Anita Derby not that long ago. Let me tell you, trained by Bob Baffert, being ridden by Mike Smith. Mike Smith is the only jockey in this field that has won the Derby twice. He is also, because he is Rodriguez's jockey, let me tell you what they did the last couple times they let him out. They let him break, they let him run. They let him do his thing. They didn't position him. They just took off and went. That is enough right there with Mike Smith on the saddle to go ahead and make a race of it and possibly end up in the winner's circle. So there's 5 horses. We all know journalism will be there. I just don't know that journalism is going to be number 1. So then you have to figure out who are your 2 and 3 horses going to be. For me, it's going to be a combination of number 8 journalism, number 4 Rodriguez, and 18 and 17 Sandman and Sovereignty.
Yeah, pretty much on the same, thought process here. One thing that was interesting, the closer look here on the Daily Racing Form, very interesting. 4 of his last 5 starts, this is journalism, only competed in 5-horse fields in 4 of those 5 races. He only beat a combined 23 horses in those 5 races. He'll have to beat 19 just today. And now again, the Kentucky Derby, this is the biggest, and I mean this like literally, like numerically, the biggest field they will ever be in. Now there is only 1 also eligible, which I don't know if that's an oversight on DRF, but normally we have at least 4. But anyways, so at the very least, we're going to see 20 horses more than likely, when the bell's ringing. Journalism has not raced against more than 5, but at the same time, a lot of these horses kind of have dealt with that. You don't really see a whole lot of big fields in the 2-year-old side of things, or even really in the Derby prep that we see kind of in the early parts of the year. But I do like journalism. It's interesting. I would love to go back and look. I probably have to maybe think Medina Spirit or something like that. The last time we saw a West Coast horse be a favorite. But again, and journalism isn't a Bob Baffert horse, but I just immediately think, if there's a West Coast horse on the East Coast, it's a Baffert horse. That's not the case. It's Michael McCarthy, but still, it's good to kind of get the West Coast side back into it and to see that East Coast bias kind of go out the window, even if it is only 3-1 to be that morning line favorite. I also do like kind of underneath Burnham Square is a horse, ran very well in the bluegrass at 4-1 and just got past Estate Avenue just by a nose. But I do think they figured something out getting Hernandez aboard in that one. And then I'm very similar to you, kind of underneath journalism. I was trying to split hairs between Sovereignty and Sandman. And the only reason I'm going to give a slight edge to Sandman is I just think the early speed a little bit more for Sandman. Both of these horses are, they're 17 and 18 post position is just, you feel like an island. You're out on an island. You might even be in that, I don't know if they still do the 2 starting gates. It might just have one big one, but I always remembered they had the 4 starting gates that were they had to attach to the main one. It's oh, you're in that. It just, everything seems off. 17 and 18 for these 2 horses. I mean, I think journalism has to look around and feel, I love my post position, but maybe I love my rival's post position even more. So that could probably be something that could possibly hold them up. But I do I really do like Sandman and Sovereignty. But I give the slight edge to Sandman and Jose Ortiz to get the job done. Won the Arkansas Derby last time out. Sovereignty got the Fountain of Youth on the road to the Derby. And the final horse I did want to bring up, you did mention Citizen Bull, but this is a horse Baffert bringing out east. And I wonder if Citizen Bull ran, let's just say, got into 3rd in the Santa Anita Derby, and who knows, let's say ran in 93. Would we see this number a little shorter? Because look, this is the reigning juvenile champion. And yeah, okay, last time out, didn't run terribly well, but did win a graded stakes race earlier this year by 4 lengths, the Robert Lewis. So, I'm very interested. I think there is a lot of value with Citizen Bull. And this is a horse that wants to get onto the lead early, and it's on the rail. I don't know. Some of the stars are aligning, and sometimes horse racing has a really funny way of kind of coming full circle. And how interesting would it be? The first year after 3 years of Bob Baffert being suspended, we see Bob Baffert back in the winner's circle. Hey, I'm not
20-1.
Yeah, I'm not stumping for anybody. I'm just saying sports, sometimes it's written in the stars, and that could definitely be something to keep an eye on. But I really do like Citizen Bull, especially at 20-1. Again, not too many juvenile champions are going to come out into the Derby at 20-1, even with a graded stakes race in that year already under their belt. But
one other remark about journalism, and I'm glad I remembered to bring it up. I read and heard several real professional handicappers make the remark, and this is not a slight on anybody, especially the name I'm going to drop, because you and I are fans of this person, but there's a little bit of question mark regarding Umberto Rispoli being on the back of journalism. And they're saying he's not always the dirt guy. Mm-hmm. And especially the dirt guy in a race like this, in a field like that may be the difference for journalism. And yeah, you hit on it with, smaller fields. Yeah. You're coming out of the 8th spot, and so you've got 10 other horses to your right. No pun intended, you are going to be jockeying for position.
Yeah, it is the Derby. If you win it, fantastic, but you could handicap this. You could get the greatest handicappers in the world, and they could break it down for 365 days to the hairs on the horse's backside. And one stumble, one little jostle early on, and guess what? Your race is over. It is a wild, wild race, and it's the only one you're going to see 20 going all at once. Even the classic, you'll maybe get 12 horses, maybe 10. But even then, sometimes you don't even get double digits in the richest horse race in North America. But wow. Last week we kind of joked that, we were kind of staying in the kiddie pool. Well, we went all the way. We didn't even go into the pool. We just got dropped into the middle of the ocean. We got deep water this week. Looking at the time, and wow, it's a long one. We appreciate you all for sticking by us. I think I heard the dinner bell in the Martinez household with the pups jumping up like, hey, it's time. Why are you still sitting behind that thing? But we do appreciate you all sticking through, and hopefully we gave you some winners. But Raider Jim, your final thoughts as we wrap up the Kentucky Oaks and Derby preview edition of the original Call to Post.
It was a great, great time. Always like talking about this weekend. And, before you know it, we're going to be talking about the Breeders' Cup and how it's going to be post time in 24 hours.
Amen. And look, ideally, if I could get one wish, the genie comes out of the bottle. The selfish side of me would love to say, oh, give me that 80-1 winner, or, give me Mind That Bird, give me Rich Strike, or something like that. But I think the right thing to do is just hope for a very fun, but mainly clean day. That you always want to hold your breath when you get 20 horses all together, 23-year-olds all together. It's always a little bit of a hold your breath situation, and not just for the Derby, but really all weekend and all summer, not just at Churchill, not just at Del Mar, not just at Santa Anita, but everywhere throughout the country. Really hope to start building on what was, a very positive 2025 season when it comes to accidents.
Great.
Ideally, I'd love to sit here and pound that table and go, we did it. We went through an entire year without one, but it's just not going to happen. But if we can continue to put the right things in place to keep these jockeys and horses safe, that is very, very beneficial. I think it's beneficial for horse racing more than a good Kentucky Derby or a photo finish at the Belmont or even a Triple Crown winner. I think the health of the sport all depends on the health of the horses, and I pray that we continue to have a relatively calm summer when it comes to that side of things, and starting this weekend. But with that being said, thank you all so much for listening to this episode of the original Call to Post here on the network, where we break down everything North American horse racing has to offer. With that being said, thank you all so much. Time for y'all to go wash your hands and stop hating everybody. We'll talk to y'all very soon. Take care. Hopefully we see you at the window.